Hello, Everypony. Critical Thought here, bringing you another episode of Inside Critical's Cranium, where we discuss aspects of the show, its characters, and the fandom as a whole. Today is a very special day, as I'm sure many of you are aware of. Valentine's Day, the day where we celebrate the love in our lives. While this day really should be about everyone you love in your life, I think at a certain age, and with the right amount of media influence, it becomes all about your significant other, your boyfriend or girlfriend, or your husband or wife. However, if you don't have that special someone in your life on this day of the year, it can feel terrible. Watching everyone else be happier than you are because they can actually celebrate the holiday and their love with someone else. Trust me, I've been on that side of the fence many, many times myself. I've been very lucky this year to have the most amazing girlfriend I've ever had, Fayt. She has helped me through so much in the past 10 months that we've been together, and I feel like she might even be the one I've been waiting my whole life for. I can't be with her today since she lives halfway across the country, but I'd like to dedicate this video to her as my Valentine's Day gift. I know she's going to watch this when it goes up, so I just want to say, I love you, Fayt. Thank you for all the love you've given me and for every wonderful moment we've shared so far. While I am dedicating the video to my girlfriend, I also want to send some love to the people I just made cringe and grimace with that last bit, because this video is also for all of you. For all the people suffering with a broken heart today. You see, while it was the Analyzing MLP live panel at BronyCon 2015 that ultimately inspired me to take up reviews and analysis here on YouTube, there has always been a topic that I've desperately tried to cover and help people understand, and it ultimately stems from my own heartbreak in the herd, and some of the actions both myself and my friends have taken within the herd as well. I've tried many different platforms, but YouTube is by far the biggest, and I think now is the time for me to finally clean the skeletons out of my closet and cover my own personal, most anticipated topic ever on this channel: Pony Waifudom. If you clicked on this video, likely you already know what waifudom is, but for the newcomers to this concept, I'll give a little bit of a crash course. Waifudom is a type of mostly romantic relationship, but sometimes also intimate relationship, between a person and a fictional character, whom they refer to as their waifu. The term waifu is directly borrowed from modern-day Japanese slang, used by married men in Japan to address their wives. There are also male versions of waifus called husbandos, but for the sake of this video, we will just be focusing mostly on waifus. Waifudom has been around for almost as long as entertainment featuring fictional characters has existed, but has seen a massive influx in growth and mainstream recognition due to the rise of the internet, where people who have waifudoms can create their own rudimentary communities around this bizarre concept. Millions of people all over the world have found a romantic connection with characters from nearly any fictional universe you can imagine. Harry Potter, Supernatural, Sailor Moon, The Avengers are all just a small portion of the properties with human characters that people can and have fallen in love with. Monster Musume, Undertale, My Life as a Teenage Robot, and yes, even My Little Pony all have strong communities of people who feel actual romantic love towards the non-human characters in their respective franchises. Well, I assume you see the title of the video, so you can probably guess which massive franchise we're going to be focusing on. I know all of this sounds a bit strange. People who fall in love with cartoon horses? It sounds like some kind of sick joke, right? If it looks weird, well, that's because it is weird in our current social structure. But if you look closer into it, you'll find that these people in these relationships who are seemingly certifiably insane might just be some of the most mentally sound individuals around. Before we get into the psychology of waifudom, I'd like to share my personal story regarding the matter. It's still a bit hurtful for me to talk about, but I always wanted this video to be an on-the-record personal account about my now infamous incident, untainted by the opinions of trolls. In the fall of 2012, I had been in the fandom for almost a year, making pony music under the name Rainboom. All of my past relationships ended pretty tragically. I was forbidden to see my first girlfriend after her drunken father started a fistfight with my stepdad. I had been threatened with an axe by a father of another girlfriend at my own house, and was pulled apart from another girlfriend by her mother who didn't want her daughter dating men. Only women were allowed, because the mom had some personal vendetta against men for some reason. Those were just a few of my relationships gone wrong, but I can assure you there are many more. So as the fall 2012 school year approached, I was feeling extremely lonely. I was severely depressed over my inability to keep a girlfriend for any more than a few weeks, and started to think that I wasn't good enough for anyone, that I'd never find a girlfriend to make me happy. I just wanted to give up on love. The only thing that still made me happy was MLP. I connected very deeply with many of the characters, and seeing them always brought a smile to my face. But there was no other character that I identified with more than Vinyl Scratch. Vinyl quickly became my favorite character. I even had my friend, a seamstress of giant pony plushies, who shall remain nameless, make me a 3.5-foot tall Vinyl plushie. I adored the character to death. I started to feel a deep connection to Vinyl. It was then that I made a decision. Instead of waste my time on more painful relationships that burn out in 3 weeks, leaving me heartbroken and depressed, I decided that I was going to do the one thing I could to save my life. I was going to commit myself to the one whom still had that spark to make me enjoy living. Vinyl Scratch. I fully understood that the relationship was going to be one-sided. I knew that I'd be living a lie, playing both the role of me and my pony girlfriend. But it was much better than the alternative of wanting to end my life every night with no one to love me and no one for me to love. It didn't matter to me, even if it was just all in my head. I felt love, and the romantic bond between me and Vinyl felt real. And that's all I needed. I was done with being heartbroken by real women. I vowed to marry Vinyl Scratch. I felt like this was as much love as I was ever going to get, so I wanted to make it official that this was the path I was going to choose for my life. I told my friends that I wanted to get married to Vinyl Scratch. Some of them approved. My best friend at the time agreed to help me fund and put on a wedding ceremony, even though the marriage wouldn't be legally official. We scouted locations, he took me out to buy rings for me and my Vinyl plushie, whom would be standing in for Vinyl during the ceremony. He even drove all over the state to pick up my other friends, and we all went to Hooters for my bachelor party. I also told my seamstress friend, the one who made the plushie for me. She also was in a pony waifudom, but with Twilight Sparkle instead. She and I felt very similarly about how our love lives were playing out, and when I announced my wedding plan to Vinyl, it gave her the courage to also get married to Twilight. We would do it together at the same ceremony, marrying our favorite pony characters, the ones who had given us the strength to push on through the rough journey of life. She decided that she would make me a newer, higher quality Vinyl plush for the wedding, as well as make wedding dresses for our plushie brides to wear. As the wedding was only a few weeks away, I started telling more people at my small little alternative high school about my upcoming wedding. Some people were happy for me, others weren't. One of my best friends from that school told me he was against the marriage and wouldn't support me. He felt I was setting myself up to become a social pariah. I announced my marriage to the few of my friends who didn't know over Facebook, with a long few paragraphs explaining my situation and my choice, alongside a photoshopped picture of me kissing Vinyl Scratch, with the added caption, "Love knows no concept of dimension." I knew that even the friends who weren't supportive of the idea wouldn't try to use the image against me, and to an extent I was right. None of my friends did use the image against me, but someone did. At the time of the wedding, I was also trying to put together a Brony convention in New England called MareCon. I tried polling some of my Brony friends as to who they would like to see appear as guests of honor at the con. One of the names that came up was Hot Diggity Demon, the Brony parody animator. I personally loathed and despised Hot Diggity Demon and his treatment of the Brony fandom. But to oblige my friends, I added his personal Facebook to get a business inquiry for the convention about having him attend. He accepted the request, but before I could message him about the convention, I announced my marriage with the post I just mentioned. And since Hot Diggity Demon had full access to see that post, there is no doubt in my mind that someone as maniacal and crude as him would take that picture and try to milk it for all it was worth to the hateful people of the internet. Soon the image was everywhere, on 4chan, Tumblr, and forums galore. I witnessed some of the people I admired and looked up to in the fandom commenting on my picture and cringing at it, making my self-esteem sink drastically. I officially became a meme, a weapon against myself and the very community that had given me so much happiness and saved my life. It destroyed me emotionally. It still does to this day. I Google that fated phrase sometimes, and I'm still finding people saying hurtful and awful things about it. Some of those people who were doing that would go on to become my friends a couple years later, neither of us knowing what the other had done. This meme leaking out into the wild and humiliating me, along with not being able to get one of my closest friends to support my lifestyle choice, ultimately made me want to not do the ceremony, and I pulled out of the wedding, much to the disdain of my seamstress friend, who no longer had the courage to marry her own pony waifu without me doing the wedding with her. I ended up losing that romantic connection to vinyl that I once had. In the end, it was the right move to stop the wedding from happening, as I did go on to have more relationships after that, including the one I'm currently in, where I'm happier than I've ever been. But my seamstress friend never did lose her love for Twilight, and continues to consider herself married to her to this very day. Why did this happen, though? I've accounted my own personal feelings of what led me into this situation of falling head over hoof in love with a fictional female equine DJ, but what happens in the brain to go from someone loving flesh and bone people to a 2D animated drawing? Truth is, no one really knows. The psychology world has yet to really study this phenomenon in depth. However, it has been determined that it is not connected to any known mental disorder, even though people against the concept like to point to one particular mental disorder as the cause. The disorder that those against waifudom point to as the cause is called erotomania. This condition is categorized by falling so deeply in love with someone that it becomes an unhealthy obsession. It also says that the person afflicted with the condition fully believes that the love is mutual, even if the target of their affection doesn't even know them. Another key feature that people claim link erotomania to waifudom is the fact that one of the symptoms of erotomania is aggressive behavior towards anyone against their love, a trait often found among people with waifus. However, while the similarities are striking, there are a few key differences between people with erotomania and people who engage in waifudom. One of the biggest differences is how the affected person engages with the target of their affection. People afflicted with erotomania may stalk the person they love, causing a disruption to the life of the victim of their obsession. Since the target of the affection in a waifudom is not real, they can't be stalked and cannot have their daily life disrupted by the person's affection for them. Secondly, and probably the biggest hole in the theory that erotomania causes waifudoms, is the fact that a vast and overwhelming majority of the people who have waifudoms acknowledge the fact that their love interest is imaginary and not a real person. They are also aware that the relationship is all in their head, and that the relationship is their own conscious choice of lifestyle. People with erotomania, however, are not self-aware of their condition, believing heart, mind, and soul that the object of their affection loves them back, and that their love interest will not be able to obtain happiness without them, even if they're already happily married. A waifudom is more akin to a tulpa. Tulpas are widely used in Buddhist worship, and are described as mind-made bodies. Tulpas are beings or objects that are created through sheer spiritual or mental discipline. The word tulpa can actually be translated as conjured thing. To grossly oversimplify, they are basically imaginary friends on steroids. However, the similarities between erotomania and waifudoms can't be completely ignored and dismissed. While waifudoms may not be directly linked to erotomania, that's not to say that a rare few individuals who have waifudoms aren't also suffering from erotomania. Despite the lack of autonomy from their beloved, I can almost say for certain that some people engaged in waifudoms are suffering from some kind of mental disorder, whether it be erotomania or something else entirely. You remember how I mentioned that my seamstress friend had a waifudom with Twilight Sparkle? Well, it wasn't as healthy as my waifudom to vinyl was. I'm about to get into some personal stuff here, so I still won't be referring to her by her real name, only by the alias of Jane. Even if you think you know who she is, I ask you to refrain from commenting it down below. As much as I don't agree with how she's behaved in regards to her waifudom, I still don't want to publicly humiliate her since she was once a close friend. I used to really like the character of Twilight Sparkle. She was my favorite main 6 for a very long time, longer than most of the other main 6. But I often felt like I could never express that around Jane. Jane was extremely possessive of Twilight. While she has slightly calmed down in recent years, back during the height of her waifudom, she became toxic to be around. If anyone in her presence so much as mentioned finding any remote enjoyment of Twi's character, Jane would chastise them and verbally fight with them, belittling them, claiming she was the only one allowed to care about Twilight Sparkle. She'd get mad at anyone who touched her life-size plushie of Twilight, claiming she was the only one allowed to touch her. Not because it was a plush she made, but because the plush was of her wife. There was also an instance where my other friend and I were playing the Twilight Secret Shipfic Folder card game at BronyCon, a game where you humorously ship MLP characters together, and Jane would make a passive-aggressive remark to either my friend or me anytime either of us shipped Twilight Sparkle with any pony in the game. I even heard of an instance that occurred the year before at BronyCon, where my friend was forced to sleep on the floor so Jane's Twilight plushie could get her own bed. Waifudom is a taboo subject, even among the accepting and caring Brony community. But I do believe it's a subject that needs to be discussed, and Jane's case should be taken as an example of taking waifudom too far. Personally, I have nothing against people who have waifudoms, even serious ones. I also don't have a problem with people who Photoshop their waifus in pictures with them, even if I do worry about them being bullied online for it. However, I propose to the members of the Brony community that we unanimously agree on how we should treat waifudom. I think that it would be in the community's best interest to embrace waifudom. For desperate people who just need to feel loved and to share their own love, I personally believe that having a waifudom is a very healthy option. If you can keep it within a certain set of parameters, that is. So I'd like to lay down 5 suggested commandments for both the Brony community as well as those engaged in waifudoms to follow. Number 1. Realize that your waifu is fictional and will never be real. If you believe, like I do, in Celestiism, then there's a chance that you and your waifu will be together in the afterlife, but you need to accept that your waifu will not be able to be an actual wife. She won't have her own job. She won't be able to rent an apartment with you. You won't be able to put down married on any sort of federal or job application form, since you cannot be legally married to a fictional character. So you must accept that your waifu is not real and that your entire relationship is in your head. Number 2. Accept that your waifu will never be your character. The character is always owned by the company that owns the rights to the franchise. Unless you buy the company that owns the character, which is a virtually impossible task, you do not own the character, and you do not have the right to control how others experience that character, which leads to commandment number 3. Number 3. Accept that other people will and will not enjoy your waifu on varying levels. The point of an entertainment property is to get a wide audience to enjoy the brand, to make the company that created the brand lots of money. Many entertainment brands are character-driven and attempt to appeal to a mass market. You may enjoy a particular character so much that you're in love with them and are in a waifudom, but you must accept that other people are going to like that character too, and you can't make them not like the character that you're in a waifudom with. There are also varying degrees of enjoyment. Some people will think your waifu is just okay. Some will consider her their favorite character. Others may view her as the object of their sexual desires, and there will also be people who have the same waifudom as you. On the flip side, there will also be people who dislike your waifu on various levels. Don't be offended when you meet other people who have these kinds of positive or negative feelings about your waifu. Whether someone likes or dislikes your waifu, their opinions on the character likely have nothing to do with how that character makes you feel. Let them believe what they want to believe about your waifu. They are entitled to their own opinion, and besides, does it really affect your relationship anyway? All that really matters is that you're happy being with her. Number 4. Do not infringe on the creative community when it regards your waifu. While this can apply to any kind of creative endeavor based on a character you're in a waifudom with, it rings especially true for those who create Rule 34 content of your waifu. Whether your waifudom is intimate or not, you do not have the right to try to ban creators from creating Rule 34 or any other creative project of your waifu. If you happen to witness something involving your waifu that you're uncomfortable with, you can politely ask the person who created or shared the content to take it down, and give your reasoning why. But don't get offended or angry if they deny your request. And finally, number 5. Expect potential bullying from both inside and outside the fandom of the brand your character is in. If you keep your waifudom to yourself, you don't have to worry about this issue that much. However, if you are public with your waifudom, expect criticism on both sides of the fence. People within the community might belittle you in an attempt to not be seen as a supporter of waifudom to others in the fandom. You may also get potential complaints from other members of the fandom that your waifu belongs to them. Alternatively, people outside the community will also bully you, thinking that you're weird and that your love is not socially acceptable. They will try to put you down for being different, and they will often be harsher than people within the fandom. I'm not saying it's acceptable or right for these people to bully those in waifudoms. In fact, it's absolutely deplorable. I'm just saying that one should prepare for the cold reality of the internet if they decide to broadcast to the world about their relationship to a fictional character. These are the 5 commandments that I propose for waifudoms. I strongly believe that if these commandments are followed, fandoms and those in waifudoms alike will benefit tremendously. Sure, many people who have waifudoms just joke about it, and don't have a serious romantic connection to their favorite character. But some people do, and I personally believe it takes an insanely strong individual to rise up against society's norms and do what they think is in their own best interest. I know just how much it can hurt to be mocked for loving a fictional character, and I can't encourage anyone enough to come reach out to me on Twitter, @criticalbrony, if they need any support regarding their waifudom. But today, on this day of love, I salute everyone in a serious waifudom. You know as well as I that the waifudom you're in right now is serving as a beacon of hope to keep you going through the harsh battle of life. Don't let the ignorant and insecure haters put you down for that. Never be ashamed to be a survivor of heartbreak. I hope you enjoyed this Valentine's Day special presentation of ICC. As always, I'm Critical Thought, and I'll see you all in my next video. Never stop thinking critically, and never stop loving.
1, 2, be my waifu. 1, 2, be my waifu. 1, 2, be my waifu. Baby, I don't see no fads around, so we gon' let this top down. Smoke and drop around town. Stay blowed under cotton candy clouds. You probably feel aroused cause the perk kicking in now. As we pounce on that ounce, you try to figure me out. I'm just another face in the crowd.